A number of political parties are today launching their election campaigns. Let's look at the road to 2024. We are now joined via Teams by political analyst Magic Nkhwashu. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Well, there is plenty at stake for political parties, with some analysts stating that next year's upcoming national and, of course, provincial elections may mark a turning point post-94. This, of course, is in reference to strong suggestions and predictions that the ANC will obtain slightly below 50% at national level. Let's get your perspective on this.
Good afternoon, Onati, and to the viewers. Indeed, if we look at the esports results, they do indicate that it will be less, at least they are indicating ANC can be less than 50%. It's at about 43% as we speak now. So it's going to be a 1994 for many political parties. There are new ones that are on board. So it will be quite an interesting elections in 2024.
And of course, there will be an opportunity to speak about other parties, but let's look at today's activity. It's all systems go, as we saw with most political parties going full campaign mode. Action SA and EFF are holding their campaigns respectively. With Action SA, promising to be the biggest new political player nationally. Just speak to us about these two political parties specifically and projections for their growth in the upcoming elections.
Action SA, it's a new kid on the block. They are promising, according to esports results, it shows that they could be at around number 5. We need to remember that they have never had an opportunity to actually campaign at the general elections, national and provincial. So they are promising that they might do well. People are looking for alternative. We also need to remember that we are going to see quite a number of formations where political parties will come together in order to form some kind of a partnership in order to defeat the ANC. If you look at the EFF itself, they are doing very well. We have seen they are 10 years into the game. Their numbers have been going up almost on from one election to another. It's even promising now that they might even be fighting for the official opposition party. So we might be looking between DA and the EFF campaigning to take position number 2.
And of course, there are a number of moving parts, before we even go into the elections. On Monday, just 2 days from now, the Court is expected to hand down a judgment on the newly enacted Electoral Amendment Act, something, of course, that independent candidates, as well as, of course, Build One South Africa are challenging. What can we expect come Monday? And, of course, what are the consequences, depending on which way the court goes?
Indeed, when the president signed the new electorate in April, it was clear that we are looking at having a new way where independent parties need to come on board. So the court will be giving direction on how this is done, because the seats need to be distributed both at the National Assembly as well as the provincial legislature, taking into consideration how the independent parties come into the fold. So it will be interesting, because we need to remember that this process are even halting the IEC from making the proper preparations. We don't even know now how long the ballot box will be. So it will be something that will give direction to IEC on how they need to prepare for elections going ahead.
And also, just something that also will be perhaps impacting on the IEC is the electoral, reform consultation panel. I mean, just yesterday we saw how Home Affairs Minister was ordered, in fact, to reopen the nomination process for that reform consultation panel. How will this then impact the elections and, of course, also post-elections electoral reform?
Given that the president is expected to announce a date as soon as he can of the election as early as May, that's how people expect. It will have quite an impact in terms of how our elections will be going forward into the future. So it's gonna be quite an important decision that the court has to make in order to give directions to our elections going forward.
And then, Mr. Nkhwashu, just going back, and just talking about the road to the elections and looking particularly at developments that happened recently. And I'm talking here about the voter registration weekend that was held. Of course, more than 560,000 new voters registered, for next year's election. How should then, moving forward, particularly in terms of the narrative that, political parties will be using during their campaigns, what should they be focusing on?
They need to focus on almost half of, we've got about 43 million voters, but only half of them are actually registered. So they need to be focusing on how they convince the few or the other half that is not yet registered, because we will remember that the online registration is still open for new voters to actually register, but we should expect that another date could be announced for another second round of elections. So it's up to the political parties as well as all stakeholders to actually have a campaign in which people can be sensitized on the importance of voting. So it is up to all the stakeholders now going forward to actually have voter education in order to convince voters why they need to vote.